Good morning. If you're listening to this presentation in terms of our game plan for today, it means that I'm running behind on a doctor's appointment. Hopefully I walk in as this is playing or shortly afterwards. The game plan today is I need to collect the data of the averages from the two different choices you had to pick from with the pill bugs, the wet versus dry preference. And then you're going to be spending most of the time working on the animal behavior lab prep. And you'll be following the directions of the animal extension lab that I had you read for yesterday. In terms of upcoming assignments, Chapter 6 is going to be our next area of content that we're going to work on. That's going to be due on Tuesday of next week. So you'll need to go to Canvas and upload the assignment that has today's date, 10/16/17, Chapter 6 reading guide, and then push that to Notability, and then have that sent back to me by 9 on Tuesday. Please remember that on Tuesday we're going to meet in the classroom because that's when we're going to be running our 2 sets of sample data based on the lab design you're working on today. Test corrections, those were put into the science resource yesterday, so you should be going in during your PLT, and you have till Thursday of next week to get those done. Our learning targets today deal with lab design, so students, you should be able to design a controlled experiment where we're looking to manipulate one variable, picking one variable and having that be your independent variable and all the other variables being held constant. And then also you're going to be setting up your lab station so that the materials are ready to go when you walk into the classroom. When we start moving around in just a little bit, this paper is what's up on the board. So if you can walk to the front of the board, just to the right of the smartboard, look to see if anybody has, from your group, from yesterday's data collection, has information listed there. If not, please include all group members and then the average calculations of the wet versus the dry chamber data. Again, the averages. Then for the majority of the class period, you're going to be looking at the animal behavior lab, the extension portion, and you're going to be following through and designing an experiment. As you notice, it shows that you can choose different variables listed up at the top here, from temperature to pH to background color to light, or another variable that you as a group can decide and work on. So you should be working in groups of 3 to 4, so no more than 7 lab stations. You're going to select one variable, and then using materials in your classroom or ones that you choose to bring in. Remembering that if you want to add heat, we do have heat lamps, so I would need to know how many groups we're going to be using that setup, and if anyone was. Use these questions below as your guiding questions, which you'll see you read this particular lab design for yesterday's class. Then you're going to continue with the design, again, continuing to write into your lab notebook, stating the objective of the experiment. Again, we talked about yesterday in the pre-lab. Our goal is to determine if the movements that we see with the pill bugs, whether we are going to be seeing taxis or kinesis. And again, that will end up being a statistical analysis when we run a chi-squared at the end. You're going to have a material section. You're going to have a procedure section. The procedure should be written in complete sentences, and then deciding how you're going to create your data tables. Once the lab is complete, in part of your conclusions, you'll be making graphs so that we have a visual representation of the actual experiment. In this portion of the animal extension, it would be what we'd be doing on Tuesday in class. You're going to be running 2 10-minute trials, so you need to have enough data tables for that, collecting every 30 seconds, and then you're going to be working on completing that chi-squared test, and you can cut that chart that is in this particular lab design and put that into your notebook and or write it in. And then you'll have post-lab questions and conclusions that you may or may not have time to work on Tuesday at class. Before you leave class today, I also need to have one of these papers filled out, Animal Behavior Materials Checklist, so we make sure that when we come in on Tuesday, everyone has enough materials. You'll be listing your group members, telling me what materials you needed. The box in the center has different types of pH materials. If you need lamps, if you're bringing those, if I need to get you one, I need to know how many groups need that. So after materials section listed here, it says, are there materials you need to bring in before Tuesday? If so, who's bringing the material? Did you check with me for room materials if I am not back? Make sure you write what supplies you still need, like if you need a lamp for Tuesday, so that I can make sure we have enough for every group that plans to run in that type of design, if anyone does. After your group has talked through, written the design into your lab notebooks, it should be all ready to go. Data tables need to be titled and set up and ready to have data entered into it. Do not come to class expecting to be doing that. You're going to run out of time and feel rushed. So be prepared on the front side. And then if you finish the lab design, then again you can be working on the next unit, Unit 2, dealing with cells and how materials are moved through a cell, as well as predicting water flow. But Chapter 6 is going to be the reading guide due Tuesday. Again, you can grab that from Canvas.